Well, good morning and welcome to our reflection on this Tuesday morning. I'm not sure if it's raining or not raining at the moment. I think it's probably just about stopped. So I thought I'd come outside and show you our new banner, which is outside the church and just been put up. And I'll show you how lovely people we have in our community that are wandering off to work and to all sorts of things. So, God, church coffee is even better. That's fantastic. So we have our new banner up, which will be in between farmers markets and other things that go up, just to make sure that everybody knows that we are very welcome. And of course, if we go past our war memorial and past the lovely new benches that have been put in place since last Armistice Day, we had them but we didn't have them in place, and then up to our banner for remembrance, which very plainly and simply says, we will remember them. We don't have to do much more than that, do we? Well, except actually remember them. Not just put banners up, but actually remember what it is we have to remember. So I'm going to head back inside because I've got a feeling that these showers are not going to be too intermittent, that they might actually come along and hit. It's just about to start again. So really just to come up and show you again the benches that are now in place. So you're on a wee tour today. A wee tour before we get to the actual reflection. But this is our Second World War bench, which shows all those horrors, men going to war, planes, but also that dove of peace, trying to remind us that even though war comes, and let's face it, it's here in Europe, that we have got hope for peace, because in our memorial we have got the names of those who gave their lives, and we have got the matching bench which shows the First World War, depicts the First World War, and the poppies, which a sign, we hope, as we wear them this week and beyond, that peace will come. And simply to conclude our tour of the outside, those who gave their lives from this, as was a village, for the Second World War. And perhaps even if we can read it from behind, that all are welcome. So walk with me, as they say, and we will head back into the church and into, I hope, a space that is dry and warm, and where we can perhaps just continue. So as we come in the War Memorial doors, we call it, we come into a nice space of welcome and warmth, and I'm just going to walk straight into what we call room 3, very imaginative, but also into our Noah's Ark and what is there. And we'll not look in the cupboards because apart from the fact they might be messy, you never know what you might find in there. Today I was actually going to consider what we've just celebrated perhaps, and what we have just celebrated this week has been Halloween, and perhaps you had geysers, perhaps you didn't. Don't think I had any at the door unless they came when I was out, but what I did have ready in case they did come were some sweeties which I had remembered to buy from the shops. Sweeties that I thought kids might like, which is all very well, but when all is done and gone and they are no longer at the doors, you're thinking, well, what do I do with them now? Leftovers. What do you do with leftovers? That's not a term that I find happens very often in my house. Leftovers, what on earth are they? Do we use them? Do we find another way of cooking them? Do we keep them till tomorrow? Do we put them in the freezer and perhaps forget about them? Do we put them in the bin? Or do we put them in the dog? Lots of things that we can do with leftovers. If you're someone who deals with Shield, then you'll realise that they take leftovers from supermarkets and make meals from anything and everything, and then send out those meals to those who need them, or people come and collect them. What about clothes that are left over? Again, most of my clothes that are left over because they no longer fit. So do I just store them away in hope? But it's a vain hope if I don't do anything about it. Or do I recycle them, reuse them, revamp them in some way. Leftovers. What do we do with leftovers? And what are leftovers? There are people in our community who sometimes say that they feel they're kind of leftovers. No longer of any use. They've had their day, they've had their purpose, and now they're just there and they don't know what it is they're meant to be doing. But there's no such thing as leftover people. No such thing as people who don't have a purpose around us. It's us who need to be perhaps more sensitive and creative in helping them to find what their purpose is. Sometimes it's because they've lost a loved one. On Sunday afternoon, we had our Time to Remember service, which had about maybe 40 plus people. And each one, I think, lit at least one candle. So by the end of the service, we had a glorious table, 2 tables, full of light of hope. And perhaps these candles didn't only remember the person that was no longer there, but perhaps was a sign of the things that they'd left behind. And I don't just mean the people, I mean the gifts that they had given, the way that made people laugh, the way that made you feel, the experiences that you shared together, the learning that you shared together. And sometimes we look back and think of the people no longer with us, but what did they give us to take forward with us? People in my own family, people who were, one or two who were generous, one or two who were open to others, showed me the way of hopefully being generous or learning how I should be. So there are traits from the people that are no longer with us that perhaps we need to take into the world. We're the ones left. So we're the ones who need to make that known and help people to understand that. So maybe apart from dreadfully missing people, we need to think, why do we miss them? What is it about them particularly that they brought personality, character-wise, not just presence-wise, that we can then share with the world? Because as we go to remembrance and armistice and the act of remembrance, there's those words that come after the wreath laying and the reveille, which are, go home and tell them about us. Tell them what we've done, the sacrifice that we've made. But tell them not only what we've done, but tell them to live their lives well, that other people will hear too and appreciate the justice and the freedom that we died for, gave our lives for. So we need to continue with people's personality and character and take that into the world beyond us. And why? I think because this world needs to have a few more examples of really what is good. And the people we miss most perhaps are the ones who brought us that teaching and that learning of how to live our lives. And sometimes, how not to live our lives. How to be kind, but also perhaps to see sometimes the effects of not being kind. There are positives and negatives from everybody's life that we can learn from and become better people from and make a better world from. So perhaps this week as we remember there are no such thing as leftovers, not in my house anyway, and no such thing as people who don't matter, who don't have a place. Everyone does. All God's people got a place in the choir and a place on the boat, a place on the ark. And perhaps this week, if it's not raining, you can come and sit on our memorial benches at the War Memorial and just stop and think what people then gave their lives for and what people now are giving their lives for. Freedom and justice and hope. And to take that with us. Take the best bits of everyone you've met, no matter when, and put it into the world around us now. Enjoy your day. There's coffee, refreshments now at Cafe Connect. There's a story time at 10:30. So come and join us and there'll be a place for you, most definitely. Because as our new banner says, you are welcome.